Alright, we are at the end of our painting of the Starry Night. Today we have 4 colors we are using to paint with. We will be painting with 2 pairs, so we will actually have to wash our brush in between some colors today. But we're going to start with our purple and white. We're still using our double dipping technique. This purple and white is for the roofs of our houses, and if you added a steeple, it will be for that as well. So let's double dip. Remember, one color on one side, turn, dip the other color on the other side. I have both purple and white on my brush. I'm not mixing them together, but I'm painting with both colors on the roof of my house. So I see both purple and white. Go ahead, double dip your brush in purple and white. Let's paint the roofs and steeples of our houses. Once all your roofs and your steeple are painted with purple and white, go ahead and take your brush to the sink to wash. Bring it back nice and clean so you're ready for our next directions. Now our last colors we're going to use are green and black, but we're not going to use the black until the very end. Most of what we'll be using is the green. So we have a lot of open space on our ground. We want to fill that with grass, but we're not going to smoothly fill in all the paper with grass. That wouldn't match the style we've been using in the rest of our painting. We want to paint like the impressionists. So I'm going to dip my brush in my green paint, and I'm going to still make dashes for my grass. However, these dashes are going to be vertical dashes, not horizontal like in our sky, but vertical. So I'm going to go all across my ground, filling it with small vertical dashes like little blades of grass that are standing up tall. We want to fill the whole ground, not just along the bottom, but all the way from the bottom of the page to that horizon line where our ground and sky meet, because grass is on all of this ground. We don't want to paint over the houses, so you'll paint your grass around. Maybe at the bottom, they might overlap a little bit because the grass stands in front of the house. But you don't want it to go on the sides because that grass is behind the house. Go ahead with your green paint, make some vertical dashes of grass all across your ground. Once you've gotten your grass everywhere on your ground, notice it's all the way from the bottom of my paper all the way up to my horizon line. I can even go on top of my horizon line with some green so we don't see that blue crayon line anymore. That will help define where the ground ends. I'll go right on top of that line with my green paint. Then I know that ground is green even in the distance. So our last step with our green and black is to put in our tree. So we need to find a spot for our tree. When I look at mine, I don't have a lot of houses over here, so this is a good place I'm going to start. Now my tree will go up into the sky, so I want to make sure I've got some space between my stars. So I want to keep my stars visible. So I think I'll use some of the space in the middle. So with my green, I'm going to do a curvy line, and it's even more than curvy. It's like a squiggle line from the top to the bottom. Now notice, as I go from top to bottom, my squiggle gets wider. When it's wider at the bottom, the base of the tree, that makes sense because the tree has to stay steady and stable. So it's wider at the bottom, skinnier at the top. So with our green, we're going to start with one squiggle, and then I'm going to keep adding some more squiggles to build up our tree, following that same sort of idea, but some might go the opposite direction. That's okay. We want to make our tree slowly appear by form of squiggles. Make sure it's wider at the bottom and skinnier at the top. Go ahead only with your green paint. We're going to make our swirly cypress tree. This is our cypress tree that's squiggly and goes up to a point. Now our last step with our nice big tree is to add a little bit of a double dip with green and black. Now black paint very quickly takes over and makes everything else black. So I want mostly green on my brush with just a little dash of black. And I'm going to add that swirl into my tree. It might not show up a lot, that's good. I'm going to do one more time, a little bit of black, mostly green, and swirl that black into my tree. That adds some shadow, because if we remember from Starry Night, that tree has a nice dark shadow on it. It's not quite as bright green as the grass we've painted. We want it to get a little bit darker. So adding just a little bit of black, and I'm mixing it in with my wet green paint to finish off our green cypress tree. Now these were the last steps to create our Starry Night. If there's anything else you missed, we'll get you paint to finish up that area. Otherwise, listen to cleanup directions for how we're going to finish.